All right. So, guys, the celebration, it's going to be just video. It's not going to be audio.
Well, you were talk over it.
But we're going to talk over it, right?
No.
Right, but the video itself isn't going to be on. So don't think that it's not working.
That would be my
Yeah,
first
yeah.
thought.
Yeah, we're gonna play video.
There's going to be two videos. There's going to be a young girl. It's relatively, it's about 6 minutes or so.
We're gonna play the whole thing.
And then after that, then it's going to be Jason McElwain, of which is the basketball player.
Okay.
Operation. Oh, my wrong. All right, ready? As it hits 8. Hey everybody, it's Shane Schultz. I am the host of Arisen Strength. And we have a full panel today. This is really a special day. We have Crystal with us. And we're gonna go right to Crystal because we don't want to lose her before we get for her to be able to announce that she's here. So, hi Crystal.
I think Crystal's mic is off.
Crystal. Crystal, are you gone already? Okay, I tried. We will go with Joey.
Hello, everybody.
Aquilino, how was your week?
Very good, very good. I had a really good week.
Joe.
Thanks so much for having me again, Shane. I had a really good week. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure.
I am here, I promise.
Crystal!
There she is.
Crystal, please announce yourself before you get lost again.
Hello, everybody. Hope you guys have had a wonderful, beautiful weekend.
Hello,
And
Crystal.
pray hard for my computer.
We're praying.
You have no idea how much I'm
Thank
praying
you.
on this.
You no sooner said announce yourself and my microphone muted, just muted.
And then we have wait. See, I'm automatically thinking she's not there. And then we got Wayne the Hacker.
Hey, everybody.
He's the producing madman. So we've got a full panel and we've got a full show. We got a lot of things that are going on. We actually have a focus group within Arisen Strength, the family. Crystal, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We assembled a small group from within Arisen, from the JGF family also, to just do a small focus group and to get together, kind of like an informal chat and just see what you guys want to talk about. What's your interest? What's your passion? What do you want to see Shane cover on? And if you're interested in joining the panel, let myself or Shane know. We'd love to add you on. Things about once a week, and we're kind of flexible on the times, and we're setting that. But we're really excited response from the folks that we do have in the group. So bring your ideas to us. Love to have you.
Excited to be able to put that together this week. You know, Crystal's always, but there's no doubt that Arisen strength is getting stronger, and it's getting bigger. We have over 330 members right now, which is impressive that we've been, you know, online. And so, anyways, I came up with the idea of going ahead with a focus group, and the first one that I thought of was Crystal, because with people, she's great, you know, getting everybody corralled in one spot and getting people to talk. So I wanted to make sure to announce, you know, to acknowledge Crystal and her talent at the best, and it's her baby, so you know, she's gonna be contacting you. That's why we want you part of the focus group, because we definitely want your opinions, and we're looking forward to making this even a better show than what it is now. And it's all for our audience as well as ourselves, because it's weird to say, but we're an audience too. Because
Absolutely.
we've all been in our own struggles, and so, you know, we need each other to pick ourselves up, you know, when we have our struggles too, as well as the audience in the group. So invested just as much as we've ever been, and we plan on being more so, you know, by getting the audience's opinion more so. So now we're going to talk about autism, otherwise known as my nightmare. I've said this a few times. I've you know, go ahead and I've worked for autistic adults for over 4 years in 2 different spots. One was an institution, one was an institutional setting, education, and for residential, and the other one was just strictly residential. So I know what autism's like. I know the characteristics and the symptoms of it. But when it comes to explaining what autism is, it's entirely a different animal to tackle all at once. You know, in fact, they even made it even more complicated since they brought out the DSM-5, because now they're not just talking about autism, they're talking about 3 separate categories that fall into the autistic spectrum. You know, so it even made it even more challenging. And if you see, like, if you go on YouTube and you listen to some neurologists and different doctors and scientists and everything, they sound perplexed. They sound conflicted, even though that they truly have the knowledge of what they do. But this particular illness really lives up to, it has more questions than it does answers. And so, you know, we're going to do our best in order to do that. This show's not just meant to bring the medical terminology to our audience. It's to bring awareness and also acknowledge the struggles and the challenge of this, both for the patients and supporters of those patients. And that's not an easy thing, you know, and I've even been working on a video for the JGF organization, as Joey and Crystal know, for autism awareness. And, you know, it's helped, but I got to tell you, it's taken me a good 2 weeks in order to wrap my head around it, just enough in order to get to here. So we're going to do our best. You know, and Crystal, I know that you were researching too. I literally was on at 3:30 in the morning last night, or this morning, researching a little bit more to try to get it more simple in order to bring across. Why don't you tell us what it is that you know about autism, and you know, with you being a nurse, and having some background with it as well.
Well, first of all, let me say that this is not my specialty or my area of specialty. I have worked with autistic children and I have worked with autistic adults in a clinical setting, but let's just, for general purposes, I would refer anybody to autismspeaks.org, which is a really good nonprofit that is advocacy and education, just an excellent site. But just for general terms, let's just do what they do and call it autistic spectrum disorder, and let's just umbrella it under that. And as that, it is a general term for a group of complex disorders of a brain development. Those disorders can be characterized in varying degrees, as you've seen in people that you know that are autistic. They may have difficulties with social interaction, verbal interaction, nonverbal interaction, repetitive disorders. And, you know, it can be associated with intellectual disabilities. It can be associated with particularly excelling in something such as music or art. Trying to put your finger on what autism is like me trying to sit here and name every single cancer that exists.
Let me know. Okay. So, yeah, exactly. And Crystal, you did a great job in order to be able to explain that. I remember being, when I was younger, autism first came to my young eyes through a movie, and it was called Rain Man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. And, you know, this particular movie was favorites at the time, and it had a great story that talked about how other of the main character was in an institution.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, you know, he had his own life that he had was full of different patterns that he understood. And that was the first time that I really set my eyes on when it came to what autism was. A funny thing about that particular movie, Dustin Hoffman had a very difficult time getting out of that character because of the different patterns that he had to study, so much so that he had a very difficult time getting out of the character. And when I say a difficult time, I'm saying like almost a year, because even when they were going up for their awards and everything, he was still having issues. You know, so it it was kind of unique to now know why that is, because now you've got the patients or the people who have this autistic spectrum. They have these different patterns that they know, and that's their life. You know. So what do you think about that, Wayne?
Yeah, this was a good movie, one, and it told a great story. And there was a couple of real-life people that cut out a character that was the main source of inspiration for the movie. I mean, it took from a lot of stories, but it was a man by the name of Kim Peek.
Yeah.
And his father took care of him his entire life. And he could read books, both pages at the same time. He'd open a book, and it was like he could read down the middle of the page, and he would remember everything he read. And he'd just ask him facts, figures, sports, history. He'd pull it out, weather of a certain day. It was really amazing, but he could not take care of himself. His father had to literally be with him like 24 hours a day. The guy, 20 minutes on his own, he'd be out of there. Kim Peek also became friends with another guy by the name of Daniel Tammet. And Daniel Tammet is this really interesting character because he's this very high-functioning, severely artistic person, but he doesn't have the that inability to communicate. He could take care of himself. He's still a little socially awkward. And there's a documentary called Brain Man, which is a takeoff of Rain Man, and it's Daniel Tammet, and he spent some time with Kim Peek. The documentary is he learned Icelandic in a week. They were doing some different things. They said it was going to be like a challenge. Part we're going to pick a language for you to learn. You got a week to learn it. And while they were filming, they said, okay, Icelandic. And then they sent him to Iceland. He spent a week in Iceland. And at the end of the week, he went on a radio show and did an interview with the radio host talking about his life and who he was. And he speaks. And the other thing that he had with him, he has this number thing where he does incredible arithmetic very quickly. And the way he explains it is, in his head, for at least the first 10,000 numbers, he has a different picture.
Okay.
So you say a number like 8, and he has a picture in his head of what that is. And he describes some of these pictures. But when he's doing arithmetic, it's like the picture just...
Right.
It's just this really strange thing. But he's a great resource for research because he's so articulate. He's able to communicate. He can tell what's kind of going on in his head, and so it's interesting. So that's Daniel Tammet and Kim Peek, two great autistic celebrities to look up. And there was a third one that I like, and then I'll kind of end it here because this whole thing just fascinates me. And I wish I knew the guy's name. Winslow. He's this guy who he draws landscapes, cityscapes. What they do is they put him in a helicopter, like he flew around London, or they put him in a helicopter and he flew around New York City, 20 minutes or whatever. Comes back down, and he draws the entire city, building by building by building by building by building. And they're the most incredible artistic cityscapes. You can probably look it up on the internet and see this guy's work. They're just stunning. So that is what's going on with the brain. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, it's funny that you talk about numbers and everything. One of the famous scenes in the video or in the movie was when Rain Man, was counting cards. And what happened was that Tom Cruise dropped a bunch of Dustin Hoffman, character looked down and he took this big pile of nothing really, and saw exactly what were there in that pile. And then it became more of a story. When Tom Cruise knew that he could do such mathematics and dynamics, he started throwing cards at him, and say, what do I have left? And he knew, and yet this character was in an institution, and when we talk about institutions, generally we're talking about a mental illness, and we're finding out more and more this is not a mental illness by any means. It's a condition, not a mental illness. Crystal, I wanted to speak on that. Joe, you remember the movie, don't you?
Oh, I definitely remember the movie. I love that movie. I think it's great. That movie. I really enjoyed how they portrayed an autistic person in that movie. I mean, it was to the T, honestly. I mean, it was really good. It was really greatly depicted by Dustin Hoffman in that movie. And that's the thing with autism, is that they're in their own little world. These people. But when it comes to numbers, they're really good. And they have the mind for numbers. So what I'm thinking, it could be a mix between I wouldn't call it really a mental disability. I would call it more of a learning spectrum disability, where you could actually put that into a learning disability, but it's a little bit more extreme, because these kids, it's tough for them to learn, but when it comes to numbers, like we talked about it in the movie, these people know their numbers, and they memorize numbers like nothing. They're more logical than analytical. So obviously the logic portion of the brain in an autistic person is really out of sight, probably moving at the speed of light, whereas the analytical part is slowed down. So I dealt with autistic kids. Actually, there was a couple of teachers in St. John's University that dealt with autistic children, and I learned about it, and that's where I learned about autism. And I try to learn as much as I can, from them, which I did. And we raised a lot of money actually for autism, and that's mainly the reason why myself, JGF organization, we're all involved, with autism, is because back in the day I raised thousands of dollars, for autism, and I was really proud of that. So I wanted to continue, to raise money for autistic children and their families, through the JGF organization and Arisen Strength. So.
Right. And and like I said, when the DSM-5 came into play, it even made it more complicated, because they took 3 categories, and the easiest way that I can explain that is that autism, that is where there's the more emotional challenge. So that's social challenge, emotional challenging of the 3. But still, underneath the spectrum, that's least challenging is Asperger's. In which case, there's less limitations. There is some social. There's very little, if limited at all, speaking, arrogant, and out as we would expect, to where they like people with their intelligence. That's how intelligent that they really are on it. And then in the middle is now what's called the pervasive developmental disorder. And, like I said, there's a whole lot of medical terminology, and that's not what we do here. That's in the middle, So it's got it has social issues. It does have speaking limitations, and it does have what was I going to say? Hand-eye coordination issues. Crystal, that sound about right? That
Shane, it does, and I hate to interrupt, but I'm getting messages from our listeners that you and Wayne are sounding like robots, and it's modulating, and I'm even having a hard time understanding what you're saying. I can hear Joey just fine, and they can hear Joey just fine, but they're not hearing you and Wayne fine.
All right, well, let's see what we can do about that. There's got to be a mic that's on.
Yeah, but
there.
Yeah, something's happening between the two of you guys.
I could try. I don't know how it's going to turn out when we make the video. Because sometimes the audio sounds different when we have the YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think we'll try and keep going, and then we'll just listen to the because we can stop now. But if it's fine, then it's fine.
But it's not going to be fine.
Okay, I just wanted to.
I'm here.
Well, okay, there's a way out of it. Hold on.
I mean, I hated to stop right in the middle of that. I can pick right back up where you want me to. I think I got enough to.
Is that better?
To start there again.
Yeah,
is that better?
Much better.
Okay. All right. The studio had a mic on somehow.
You were way.
Yes.
We're just way over modulating. That's all it was.
Too much stress on the.
Okay. So, all right. So let me go through that one more time, real briefly. There's three aspects to the autistic spectrum. There's autism, of which is the most challenging. There's Asperger's, of which is the least challenging, but does have challenges in other aspects. And then there's in the middle. There's the pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, which is, like I said, it's in the middle. So it does have social aspects that are challenging. There's limitations in regards to speak and hand-eye coordination, as well as other limitations. Crystal, that sound about right?
It does sound about right. And for those of you that are wondering, the DSM-5 is just the way that the doctors can actually diagnose autism. It's a coding system. It's a way to diagnose these folks. And we keep saying DSM, just to explain what that is. That's just to help actually give a diagnosis to autism. But yeah, that is exactly right. And another term, and speaking of Rain Man and speaking of Asperger's, and that you may have heard is idiot savant,
right?
Which these people may, not be able to function at all on their own, but they can get on the piano and play a concerto by just hearing it one time. Mm-hmm. Very fascinating disorder. It is, and I've got some background whenever. If you want to get into that about risk factors and stuff like that, but
right, yeah, no, you're exactly right, and in fact, we're going to go over that. Go ahead. What'd you say, huh? Oh,
I didn't say anything.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't say. I wasn't saying. I was just waiting on you.
Okay. All right. When I worked, with autistic adults, I learned that there was a whole lot of different patterns that they only understood, in which case I didn't even understand it, even though that I worked with them. Oh God, I worked 80+ hours a week. I made a lot of money doing it, but I got to tell you, I ended up having issues medically, because I ended up getting injured a couple times working with them because
Oh
of
yeah.
the frustrations that they have when they have their outbursts. I can remember, and I know I'm dating myself, but the Speak and Spell, which was this big, huge, plastic encased video thing. Not even a video thing. What was it? It was a Speak and Spell is to where it would say the word, and then you would have to spell it out as a kid. It was about the size of a lap today. And this little girl, which was actually, she was 30 years old, but she looked like a little girl. She was about 80 pounds soaking wet. And I can remember I'm sitting there and I'm talking to somebody else on a couch. And Mary Lou, and I called her Lulu, she had times as to where she would outburst. And sometimes it was really interesting. And I can remember sitting there and I was talking to somebody, and then all of a sudden I saw nothing but stars because I had what amounted to a laptop thrown in midair and hit me in the head. And then there's Mary Lou saying, "I didn't do that," and it's like, and of course, that was her thing. She would do something. "Oh, I didn't do that," and try to pin it off on somebody else. But in the meantime, I had a concussion, so somebody did something. So, but that was but it was even though that I had injuries and I had frustrations, when I first started working there, I worked with these adults, autistic adults from Willowbrook, and Joey happens to live in Staten Island, and so I know that he knows a lot about Willowbrook's history. Just to give a little bit of a background, Geraldo Rivera at the time was working with 2020, and he actually put himself on the map when it came to this particular documentary that he did on this institution that was called Willowbrook in Staten Island. And it so happens that when they actually closed down Willowbrook, they moved patients in different areas, and I happen to work with 4 of them. Now, I unfortunately, Willowbrook was a nightmare. Willowbrook was the patients were not treated well in any way. In some ways, they were even tortured, and so this is why Geraldo did the documentary on it, and he really did a great job, and he really brought awareness to this illness, this condition of these patients, while trying to shut down Willowbrook in itself, and it really brought autism out into the main world. Joey, so tell us about what you know about Willowbrook, being that you're right out there.
Well, yeah, actually, it's like 10 minutes away from my house. Willowbrook Park, also now the site of College of Staten Island, where I went for my master's. It's a big space, and it's a huge space, and the buildings are still there that actually have these sick people, and they actually quartered them off. They put the college over here, but they left the buildings up and they quartered it off with a fence. So really, nobody is using those buildings, but a lot of heinous acts happened in those buildings. Unfortunately, I heard, almost 50 people died there. There was just unspeakable acts of what was going on there. There was some killers that came out of there that actually, went into the park and was actually, the 2 of them were actually hunting women in the park over like 2 minutes away. They went through the trees, to unfortunately find these women, running in the park, early in the morning, and unfortunately, like 7 women died by their hand, and that was a big thing too. They made a big thing about that in the newspapers. But did they do anything good there? I didn't hear of anything really good that went on there. I mean, I just heard of like all the negative stuff, that happened in that area, and now they're saying that it's actually haunted by these people. This land that's being used by the college is actually haunted,
Yeah.
by these spirits, But it actually started in 1938, and it started as a 375-acre piece of land, which then grew, and it housed over 4,000 people at a time. And like I said, now it's a college and kids dorm there, and so on and so forth. But with all these heinous acts that happen there, there are plenty of information in the CSI library that you can actually go to the library and check out, who was in, the hospital. The people that were in the actual records, are actually housed in the CSI library, it's just really, it's interesting, but it's sad at the same time because, so many people lost their lives. A lot of them did have autism. A lot of them had learning disabilities that they thought were mental
Right.
disabilities, that they thought were mental disabilities. So that's the thing. Learning disabilities and mental disabilities, two different things. Spectrum disabilities and mental disabilities, two different things. Autism and schizophrenia is two different things. So when it comes down to it, a lot of these kids were thought to have schizophrenia or some type of mental disorder, and that's why they were given all these drugs. And that's why some of them died of the drugs, some of them were beat, some of them hung themselves. Yeah, it was just horrible. I just heard very heinous things happen there. But like I said, 10 minutes down the road over here, back in the 70s, it was a very active area, with patients, and now it's a very active area with students. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked with the four that I worked with, when they were in just despicable conditions, but the Arisen strength came out of them, once they started trusting, who I was and who we were, and we were trying to help them. They developed survival patterns, basically, while being in there, and it took quite a while in order to gain any type of trust whatsoever. And so, unfortunately, when it comes to autism, Willowbrook is brought up quite often, and and I wanted to, mention it because of the people that I've worked with, in respect to them, because what they went through was
Yeah.
I can't hear them.
Shane, you guys froze up over there. You guys are froze up. We can't hear.
I can see Wayne's microphone's off.
I could see Wayne trying to talk or something. I can't hear them. Sorry, guys. Hopefully we'll get this right.
Yeah, I'm not sure who they're hearing, me and you, or Shane and Wayne.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think they're hearing us at all.
I don't think they. Oh, they hear us. We don't hear you guys. Shane was in the middle of a good talk there too. Well, I mean,
Well, Shane's video is totally frozen for me right now. Still.
yeah. I mean, to the point that he was saying, anyway. I mean, oh, there he is. Wait, there he is.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Is your mic on?
My mic's on right now.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened. I was going to say is during the 80s, because of fallout from Willowbrook, they started closing the giant institutions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so all those people were sort of turned loose, and the ones that didn't have families to take them in ended up homeless.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ended up not getting the care they needed.
Yes.
And there's been long-term repercussions just from that. It was a horrible, horrible situation at Willowbrook, and those people went through hell.
Oh yeah. But if I could just say something.
But the ripple effect from that went on through the whole country.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I just wanted to say now that we see that negative that happened in Willowbrook, the positive is that, College of Staten Island is actually raising a lot of money for autism, and they actually do the autism walk right there.
That's awesome.
They do the autism walk right around CSI. So I mean, I look at that as like from negative to positive type of thing. That CSI actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Crystal, let's talk about some of the symptoms, because part of the show is also it's not just for the patients and those who struggle with these illnesses or injuries or experiences. It's also the supporters of those people who go through those challenges. So let's talk about some of the symptoms that, some of the supporters that are out there, the moms, the dads, the brothers, sisters, friends, that are definitely inundated when it comes to this particular condition, because it really is a lot to deal with at times when it's in a full-blown outburst.
Absolutely. I mean, dealing with that, if you can take yourself and place yourself to where you can't speak and you know what you want to say and you can't get that out, and you can just imagine the frustration that they have. These people, listen, 40% of these folks in total are at average or above average intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
They are not all mentally debilitated, but they're not able to communicate it. So this does level a challenge to caregivers and the caretakers. That's why these institutions got away with doing. You got to understand this genetic component of autism. It's as genetic as the color of your hair, position to get cancer. It's a bodily thing. It is not a mental illness. And so the good part is they're closing those places down. The bad part is what Wayne was talking about, and left a lot of people homeless and without the care that they do need. So being a caregiver is very stressful, and these folks do need support groups, and some type of outlet. I'm hoping that's what you're asking me, Shane. That kind of broke up a bit on me, but let me know if there's something else you needed.
Yeah, it is what I was asking, because
okay,
what you brought up with is that these people are not mentally ill. They're not challenged in a way that they don't know what's going on. They very well know what's going on. They do know what's being said. They do know what frustration is all about. I mean, imagine being in a body where you're not able to get what it is and communicate what it is that you need to communicate at that time. It's I can't even imagine. I mean, if you went ahead and put duct tape over my mouth, which I know some of you would like to do every once in a while, it's if you were to do that, and then on top of it, take my arms and tie them behind my back, I'm going to act a certain way in order to get my point across.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to do everything that I can in order to be able to get your attention to where I need it to be. But that doesn't mean that the supporters don't go through a whole lot. And it's not fair to them either. because they're just trying to do the best that they can. They're trying to love the person who's challenged with this condition. They're trying to help the person as best they can. But in sometimes, you know, I mean, if you go ahead and you look at some videos, I mean, it's almost like trying to tame a Tasmanian devil. I mean, it's you know, there's where sometimes the person will hurt themselves. They'll throw their fists, you know, at their head. They'll bang their head on the floor. You know, they'll sit there and they will flail their arms. And you know, I can remember some of these people that I worked with. They were very big. You know, I mean, they were 6'2", 280 pounds. You know, I mean, they start flailing their arms. You know, you better duck, otherwise it's going to hurt. And you know, and it's not because they really mean to. It's because they're just trying to communicate what it is that they need in order to be able to communicate with you. But you know, what the supporters go through, you know, in having to understand what autism is, no matter what spectrum it is, you know, it's definitely a job, you know, as to where it can be wearing, it can be distorting, it can be extremely, you know, self-centering, you know, as to where you start blaming yourself for what it is that your child's going through. You know, I mean, it's a tough time, and you know, and like Crystal said, these people need support. You know, they need support. They need to be understood. You know, it's like, it's okay that you're frustrated. It's okay you want to scream. You know, it's all right. You know, it doesn't mean that you don't love your child just because you want to scream to the top of your lungs at a time. You know, and so you know, that's what Arisen Strength is there for as well. It's not just for the people who are challenged and struggling through the issues. It's also for the supporters, and this happens to be a great subject in order to bring that across. You know, so but the hour does start to go by relatively quickly, especially when you start having issues inside and out. You know, so I mean, we definitely, you know, we did a broad spectrum in regards to the autistic spectrum. We've brought across what it is that our own experiences and everything. We're going to go over this again, just like we're going to go over all the different subjects that we talk about, and we'll probably have even more information then. But you know, what I like to do is I like to start going into our celebration part of this, and really the first thing that I really wanted to talk about is actually in this local area in Schenectady. It's called the Puzzles Bakery and Cafe, and the reason why it's called Puzzles is because Autism logo is a puzzle piece, because it's a bunch of puzzle pieces, because it's a very complex condition that a lot of people don't understand. And so it utilizes the logo of the puzzle piece. So this company, Puzzles Bakery and Cafe, they went ahead and they you know, took their logo and made it similar to what autism is for. And I'll tell you why. The reason is because the owner of this bakery, her sister is autistic and has been for quite a while. She has a pretty severe condition of it. She has autism as opposed to the lesser challenge spectrum. You know, so she knows very well what autism is all about. Well, the idea that she brought across in regards to opening up her business, she has 20 positions that she needs to fill, and what she has decided to do is she's going to try her very best in order to do half of them as autistic people within the local area in order to help with the business, whether it be as a cashier even, as a bus person, as a waitress, or so forth. So she's doing her best, and it's not just autism that she's trying to support. She's also supporting other different types of disorders, people with disabilities and so forth. But this is where her vision came from, was from autism awareness. And so I think that that's pretty cool, to go ahead and to take what's definitely been a challenge in her life. She actually has gone over some stories, regards to her sister, and how she had to look out for her sister, over the years. And, she took that challenge, that struggle, and she made this business, called Puzzles, based off of her sister's life and struggles that she goes through, and looking to turn it around and turn the thought to try to help other people that are just like her sister. So, Crystal, what do you think about that one?
Actually, Shane, I've got one of those in my hometown. It's called Cherub's Bakery, and they hire from it's a local Catholic center that is associated with Belmont Abbey and Sacred Heart colleges, and they hire people with disabilities, a lot of people, and they do a variety of jobs in my house. I think it's a wonderful idea. It's a beautiful idea.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. So, so that's here in the local area, and we definitely encourage that. And I actually, I only found out about them yesterday from my aunt, because she actually has a service dog, and they utilize the service dog in order to help the employees to be able to become socially adept within the public. And it helps them out a little bit, and so she brought that to my attention. I sent a message. I'm hoping that they have a Facebook page called Puzzles, and they I sent them a message letting them know that we were doing this show, and that we were going to utilize them to acknowledge them in regards to our celebration part, because I think that that's a great thing. I think that's just a great example of Arisen strength. And like I said, it's a trifold as far as our celebration is. Wayne, we were talking about a video. We found this video on YouTube. And unfortunately, we don't have audio in order to play this video, but we're going to do the best in order to be able to describe it a little bit for you. This girl was diagnosed at 4 years of age, and she has severe autism. And again, one of the major networks went ahead and did a documentary regarding this young girl. And she, with her severe autism, she has quite a few outbursts, and she flails around, and she doesn't communicate well at all. She uses a lot of different grunts and different types of noises that she understands to be communicating, but the person that's listening to her isn't really getting it all. And for years, she was considered mentally retarded, because of her challenge and her struggle. So Carly is her name, and as she was growing older, she was becoming more and more of a handful, because she was being more outbursts and more frustration. And so she would go ahead and she was starting to become
physically violent, you know, with her family, and her family was at that brink, at that crossroads as to where, you know, can we handle, you know, having Carly within the house, you know, or do we need to take her to a home? Do we need to take her to an institution where she's going to be safe and where we're going to be safe in this situation? You know, and so they, and as you can see with the video that Wayne's showing right now, you know, they're taking her from a very young age, and she's sitting there and she's trying to communicate all this time, you know, with everybody, and quite frankly, she's just about had enough because she's not getting her point across, and you know, so they started, you know, trying to get her to communicate with different types of tools, you know, whether it be cards or whether it be writing or whether it be anything like blocks they tried utilizing too. You probably can go right there. So anyways, so they're at the brink. They're going to be putting her in an institution. Well, she happened to be at the doctor's office with them as they're making the decision that she's going to go to the institution. Well, the doctor had a computer. And so all of a sudden, Carly went up to the computer and started typing with one finger on each key. Well, they thought that she was just playing. Well, she wasn't playing in any way. She was starting to write. Her first word was hurt, and her second word was help. And so then all of a sudden they realized she was communicating with them. And you know, when you get an opportunity, definitely look up this video on YouTube. We're doing our best in order to be able to show it. But this young lady not only does one or two words, she does paragraphs, and she does paragraphs that are showing extreme intelligence, to where she explains that she actually, and Crystal, you might want to talk about this too. She actually explains that she feels like her skin is almost on fire. She explains it as if like if you take a soda bottle and you shake it up, you know, to where all the what is it, where it explodes out. Carbonation comes out of the soda, and she explains that
Right.
if you shake it up and then all of a sudden, you know, it can't go nowhere because there's a top on it. And that's the way that she explained it, is that she felt, you know, where she was literally having physical issues, you know, that she couldn't explain to people.
Well, yeah, and actually that makes a lot of sense. If you look, it used to be that we used to say we didn't know what caused autism, but the fact of the matter is we do have a few definite givens about autism. It appears to have its roots in very early brain and neural development. That's nerves. So if it's in the nerve involvement, it makes total sense that she's having these physical symptoms. The pain, the burning, whatever. That would go very much along with where it developed. That's very early in fetal development.
And that's what what we've got on the video here. She actually was typing. She said that what they're trying to do is they're trying to, you know, when they're making noises and flailing, that they're trying. They have so much sensory that's going inside. They're trying to keep it from going in, and it's actually painful. I don't know how so. I can't explain it, but she made it sound as if like they're literally trying to keep. They're trying to keep from feeling too much, and
sensory overload.
To be overloaded and inundated with the sensory feelings that are outside them, trying to get in, and you know. That really made a lot of sense to me. I mean, working with autistic adults, you know, it's like I could really see that, as to where they're trying to, just, I mean, I've had them as to where they hit their head, or their ear, or whatever the case may be, and it's like, I mean, I remember Frankie. He was my buddy. He looked like he was 15, but he was 30 some odd years old, and he was very strong, and his autistic diet was very very constant, and he was very amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But when he didn't have a good day, he'd be like, no likey, no likey, no likey, and he was communicating something wasn't right. And then he would communicate even further. I'm not happy that something isn't right, and anything could happen. I mean, he could hit a wall. He could throw his clothes on the floor, whatever the case may be. So that really made a lot of sense to me, Crystal, when they said, that they had the sensory on the outside, that was coming in, and they were trying to, literally keep it from doing that.
I think this is also a good time to mention a couple of myths associated with autism, and one's kind of related to this story too with Carly. One with there's this thing, facilitated communication. A lot of developmentally challenged people. This was a thing that went on for 20, 30 years. People using keyboards and somebody moving their hand, and having them type things out. And every single one of those stories has been debunked.
Right.
And they've never been able to replicate that at all. But these cases where the person's doing it themselves, either we're able to objectively decide where their eyes are looking, or they're able to move their own hands. Those are the amazing stories. And those are the real stories that are really inspirational. So you don't want to get this confused with those stories where people moving people's hands around on keyboards, because those have all turned out to be the person who's doing it subconsciously, even
trying to help.
It's not the same thing. And the other thing was important that Crystal mentioned is she's mentioned two things that are really important. There is a genetic predisposition for a lot of autism. We don't know exactly, but we know there's a genetic component. And then the other thing that Crystal mentioned that was really important is that we know it has to do with very early brain and nerve development. Certainly by the 6 months to 9 months old, whatever's going to happen has already been decided.
Yeah.
And it's most likely stuff that happens in the fetus, in utero, or before the child's born, that very, very early brain development where the autism is taking effect. Meaning it's completely removed from any vaccinations.
No, don't go there.
There is no connection.
Don't go there.
Between autism and vaccination. There are dozens of studies to show that there's no connection. There was one a long time ago by a doctor, I think his name was Wakefield, and he lost his license.
Right.
He was discredited, and he was driven out of the business. Jenny McCarthy still talks about it. Other people still talk about it. We've all heard it. Vaccines and autism. You would never even know about that if this one guy had not put forth this fraudulent study. And there's never been another study that ever come close to even showing anything like it. And the guy was driven out of the profession. He's disgraced. The journal that published it was disgraced. They pulled it, of course. He lost his license. The whole vaccination, autism, no connection. Just get that out of your head.
Yeah. And every doctor that's on YouTube that I've watched, be on stage and everything, every single one of them echo that, and not only echo it, but scream it, to the point as to where that's just totally been debunked. And like Wayne said, that particular doctor lost his license, and rightfully so, for creating such an incorrect association. And then we have our third part of our celebration, which, being in New York, we actually heard about it, before it even got onto ESPN, which was Jason McElwain. And Joey, I know that you're a big sports guy.
Yeah.
When it came to Jason McElwain, does that name sound familiar to you?
No, doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, well, he's in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is that he has helped with the basketball team, for quite a long time. He is actually he's closer to the Asperger's side of the spectrum. He's very intelligent. He's extremely motivating. He does motivational speeches for the team, and he actually runs the practices. Wow. He actually gets them all riled up in order to practice hard. And he's a tyrant. he doesn't allow them not to do what it is that he expects. But the thing is that he's on the basketball team. But they did it. It was, I don't know if it was like an honorary thing at first.
It was more honorary. He was like a team manager.
Right, but they brought him to where he could go. He went to the game and he had a uniform. So, and that was like the biggest thing. So he was in one of the last games that they were gonna have, and he was in a uniform. And here it is. He's all sorts of happy. He's got family there. His friends are there. He's on the court. Well, he's not on the court. He's on the bench, but with a uniform on with his team.
Right.
Well, there's less than 5 minutes to go in the game, and the game's kind of out of hand. And all of a sudden, and he points to Jason and he says, "Get in there." So here it is. Now, I'm telling you, this kid is a motivated individual. he jumps up. He jumps up off of the bench, and he runs out there. And at first that was enough. That was the greatest thing going. Well, all of a sudden they started passing him the ball, and he took his first shot, and he'll tell you he missed it by a mile. He totally missed it by a mile. Then he took his second shot and he hit the backboard. So that was, he did a little bit better. Afterwards, after he did those first two shots, Joey, if I told you that he scored 20 points in less than 40 minutes, in 4 minutes, this kid, Jason, every time he started throwing 3-pointers.
Wow.
And I guarantee it's his pattern. I guarantee it's what he play. When he's out and he's practicing.
That's amazing.
He goes out and he throws 3-pointers as if like it's nothing.
Yeah.
He makes LeBron James, sit down. It's like, he's like Reggie Miller like.
Yeah.
And so he's sitting there and he hit 6 3-pointers in a row.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so he ended up with 20 points, in less than 4 minutes. And you gotta remember, there's amazing. Another team that's out there.
That's amazing.
So
that's really amazing.
I mean, the team, did their very best in order to get the ball, to get him the opportunity in order to throw it up to the hoop, and that man made it from a long way away, over and over and over. And he was carried, the whole crowd just rushed off of the bleachers and put him on their shoulders and everything. So I mean, it was really awesome, to see somebody who's sitting there and for Jason, for Carly, and for Puzzles, we definitely want to acknowledge you guys because that is what Arisen Strength is all about. You're sitting here and you have a challenge and a struggle. But it doesn't mean that that's going to stop your dream, your talents, and your capabilities. So
that's awesome.
That is just amazing as to what it is that he did. And I remember it when that came on ESPN the next morning, and it was amazing. It was like he hit one, and I thought that was the story. I thought that was it. He hit the last shot, and it was a 3-pointer. Next thing you know, they're showing another one, and I wasn't really paying attention. And I said, wow, they keep on showing the same shot or whatever. Then I realized, no, it's not the same shot. he's doing it from different areas and everything. And he hit 6 3-pointers in a row.
That's amazing.
And talk about using your pattern to your ability. I mean that works out great.
Wow.
Well, you know what, Shane? That just brings out the thing about the word disability, and I kind of cringe even every time that I use that word, because instead we should be saying ability. We've got different abilities. To some extent, we're all disabled in some way, but the word itself kind of, and I use it myself, but I kind of cringe when I do, because change the disability to ability. What can you do? What do you excel at?
Right. That's why we mention the word capability. Because it's dreams, talents, and capabilities, because they are there within them. They're there within us all. It's just that the challenges and the struggles that we had has suppressed them to the point as to where we can't see being able to use them anymore, and we're consumed by those challenges. And that's what this show is all about, is to actually move those challenges and those struggles, in a spot that's manageable and understandable, and then bring back what it is that makes us unique and what makes us have passion within our lives, which is our talents, dreams, and capabilities. And so, that is what Arisen Strength is all about. And I told everybody before the show, I says, you will not forget the celebration part that we do about this show, because these three stories together, is just amazing, and it really just echoes what the concept of our show is really all about. We are getting a little bit past what it is, the hour, but I think that it was well worth the reason for. Joey, I want to say thank you for again stopping by and helping us out with the show. I know that you have an autism awareness page with the JGF organization, and we're going to put that up on all the different sites, Arisen Strength, Serenely Speaking, and we're going to put the links up there, as well as me being the spokesperson of the JGF organization. I'm very very in tune and very proud of being able to do that, as my part for the organization. But I wanted to say thank you for stopping by. Crystal, it was great having you, Crystal. I hope you come back. I hope you don't get lost. I hope you don't get lost much, anymore. For those of you who are within the focus group, Crystal, the next group's going to be what, Tuesday at 2 o'clock?
Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time, folks. 2 o'clock.
Eastern time. Yeah, and then that's so that I'm really excited about that, and getting the insight from our members and our audience. And then Wayne the Hacker, it's like you showed Arisen Strength all night long here, with what we've had to go through. It just seems as if, like, if it's not one thing, it's another thing, and what worked one show perfectly, for some reason it just became a challenge afterwards. So I want to say thank you for all the work that you do. We definitely want to hear from our audience. Our contact page is Wayne showing it to you right now. In order to get us by email, is arisenstrength@gmail.com. We're on Twitter. We're going to be on Twitter even more so in the near future. We're going to be focusing on getting that up and running the way that I think it needs to be. That's if our site is @Arisen Strength, all one word. And if you want to tweet to us, that's #Arisen Strength, all one word. We have our two websites or Facebook pages. One's the page, which is Arisen Strength, and then there's our group, which is the family, the Arisen Strength family, which, if you can't tell, we're a family, when it comes to this show and this concept. So between having Serenely Speaking, Arisen Strength, and the JGF organization, along with Wayne the Hacker, with his random thoughts of random excess, we're a family that's trying to bring the best that we can out to you in regards to awareness and support, in regards to the challenges and struggles that you have. So I'm going to end it with, I know how you're feeling, I know what you're thinking, and I'm here to help. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.